Okay, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to speak today because, Parshas Emor speaks about the,
It's Yom Kippurim.
it speaks about well, not really, not so much. It speaks more.
Very, very interesting.
Now that was Acharei Mot more, but it speaks about the kedusha of the Kohen.
Yes.
It speaks about the kedusha of the Kohen, and that he has special kedusha, and that he should not defile himself to dead people. He's not allowed to be close to people that have been nifter, go into basic forot, right? He's not supposed to go into cemeteries. He's not allowed to be in hospitals if people have passed away. He has to avoid being in a tent with a dead person. And so let's close the door.
Okay. No, you have to know.
Yes, on the other side.
But this for the fire.
You have to hear.
De Kohen Godel had dat mooi gevonden, dit onderwerp. Onze Kohen Godel had dit mooi gevonden.
Of juist niet.
Dat kan ook. Er ligt.
Hoe loop je dat op als je zelf naar het ziekenhuis moet?
Ja, goed, dat is wel mogelijk.
Sorry about that. Let's start again. You want to start again?
Just for the fire, if this is the.
I also want to record, so we're going to start again, okay?
Als er brand is. Dat automatisch dicht of zoiets, weet ik niet.
Okay. So we have one second, the recorder. Come on, great. Yeah. Okay, so the beginning of this parsha talks about the kedusha, the holiness of the Kohen, and that he has special halachas being a Kohen, and the Kohen Gadol even more so, right? The Kohen Gadol has even more stringencies, but that the Kohen cannot defile himself. He cannot become in contact with dead people. Okay, a corpse, or that means even going to a cemetery. And Tumas Mace, for some reason, seems to be, and that's what I really wanted to discuss. What is it about the Kohen, particularly, that he's not allowed to defile himself to the dead? Now, to be fair, there are other types of tuma. There are other types of defilement in the Torah. There's tumas sheretz, tumas nida, zav. There are all sorts of different tumas. Some tumas that comes from the body, shichva zera, a seminal emission. There are many different types of tuma, and not just tumas mace, right?
For everybody.
Been there for everybody, and you're not allowed to go into the Beis Hamikdash with them, but there's no prohibition per se for a Kohen, not to become defiled with any one of the other tumas any more than anybody else. And if he does, then he won't be able to go into the Beis Hamikdash till he purifies himself. But there's no special prohibition of, let's say, for a Kohen not to, there's no sin of becoming tamei. There's no such thing. Tuma and tara are normally not sins. They're statuses that a person gets, and they limit a person. Like a person can't go in certain places when he has that tuma. And if he does go in those places, like if he goes into the Beis Hamikdash when he has tuma, okay, so that's a very grave sin, and he has to have a kapara. But then, okay, so then don't go, But here we find that the Torah didn't want the Kohen particularly to get to, and gave him a prohibition that he should not become in contact, in any kind of exposure to dead people. Yeah.
Until today, was it?
Till this very day. Even when there's no Beis Hamikdash.
If
It's not just for the Beis Hamikdash, it's,
in een church, in een kerk waar graven zijn, daar mag een Kohen helemaal niet komen.
well, you shouldn't go in a church anyway, but, yeah. So, and we have special, of course, in the basic forest, we have special paths for the Kohanim, and it means sometimes like, for example, in the basic forest, if there's a tree, that's grown over the path, it's a problem for the Kohen. They have to make sure they check. They make sure to check to see that no branches are growing over the paths, because
What about if he?
that's an oil. That's,
If the Kohen have to go to the hospital?
if the Kohen has to go to a hospital, good question. Ask your local Kohen what they do. It can be a problem. It can really be a problem. I have been with Mati because Mati was a shochet, and I remember I think twice I was with him because he cut his fingers during the shechita. Once the bull, he stuck at his foot out of the cage and knocked his knife, and he sliced his finger. So I was like holding his hand up so it wouldn't bleed, and he was driving, and I was holding the hand up, and uh, and we went into the emergency room. So I know that he goes into the emergency room. Maybe he doesn't have to assume that there's someone dead in the hospital, but and it can be a problem, and maybe there are certain heterim, but
Okay,
like
but that's a real big.
it's a real big concern, and it's a
Yes.
concern for a Cohen to become a doctor. It's a concern for a Cohen to become a doctor and practice. And, I'm not saying that they can't, but you really have to, take advice with a rabbi. It's two things. Should you go into that profession? That's one question. And then let's say you already are in that profession. What can you do to mitigate the problem? But,
Yeah, that's clear. But the question I ask is, you said about Moti, he cut his finger. So that's really important to stop it direct.
of course.
If he have to go to the hospital for a blood test,
Yes.
things like that,
I think
simple.
there's something playing in the background here. Yes. Okay, sorry.
But you don't know. It's
I don't know. You have to ask Kohanim, okay? I don't know all the details how they deal with every time they have to go to to an appointment in the out clinic. Maybe in the out clinic, in the hospital there is a morgue. That's where they keep the
Yes.
dead people. It's not so often that there's a dead person in the hospital. I mean, it does happen. I go and I pick up dead people in the morgue there. Okay, but they have special places where they keep them in general.
but
And
it's
if a
under
person dies,
the
it's
same roof.
yeah, but like where the polyclinic is, for example, where the people go to for, I don't, there aren't dead people over there. That's like a different building.
No, but it's the same roof.
Not necessarily. Like it can be, it cannot be, and then you have to know. You have to know, and I don't know all the. I'm not a Cohen, so I'm not so familiar. Yeah. Yeah, there's also a problem with traveling in an airplane and the airplane goes above cemeteries. Okay, there's also problems with that. And the problem is that the you could say that the airplane is stopping the tumor because the tumor goes up all the way to Shemayim.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes all the way to Shemayim, but the airplane you could say is like it blocks it. Okay, but the problem is many opinions hold since the airplane is moving, it doesn't block it. Like because an OL that's moving is not called an OL. An OL can block, and an OL can also transfer. Like it can stop it from going, but it can also move the tumor underneath. Okay, so these are a lot of technical questions. I mean, you can learn Masechet Olot, and there are a lot of how Tuma travels. These are very technical things, but we want to go to the root and ask why is it the Torah was particularly makpid, that had a particularly concern that it didn't give a prohibition for the Kohen to become tummy with other types of tuma, but only with tumas mace. Why is that? That's what I wanted to know. Okay. So I have a kind of working kind of premise on this. I heard a shiur by someone who spoke a little bit about it. His name is, I don't remember his name, but I did write it down. So his name is Rabbi Meir Obstefeld. He had a very, very nice shir. It was a short shir. It was a very, very fascinating shir, I thought. And basically what he said was the Kohen's mission to work in the Beis Hamikdash is, and especially the Kohen Gadol, more than everybody else, is direct connection with Hashem. And Hashem is Makor HaChaim. Hashem is the source of life. So the Kohen is connected
Which could you?
with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and he's in the service of the Kodesh Baruch Hu in the Beis Hamikdash, and he represents this connection with Hashem, and Hashem is the concept of life itself. He's Makor HaChaim. Death, in a certain way, is a contradiction to God, because God is life, and death is the contradiction of life. And it was when man was created, man was supposed to live forever. It's the sin. And this the Gemara says. I have the sources here. I looked them up. The sources are there's a source that says Ein Misa below Het. There's no death without sin. And that's what happened. That man got death because of sin. Without that, he would have lived forever. Right? Man was supposed to live forever. That's the default. That man lives forever and man was supposed to live before Hashem in the Garden of Eden. Right? And the sin caused him to have to leave the Garden of Eden, and it also caused him to sin and to die. And if you think about it, death in a certain way is division. The sin is what causes division. The sin is what caused Hashem to be the man to be divided from Hashem. The sin is what caused man to be divided among himself. And death itself is division. That's what happens at death, is you fall apart in the grave, basically. It's division. It's just division, to the max, okay? Of the body, that is, okay? Of course, there's, resurrection and all this, but that's the tikkun. That was the tikkun, but it was caused by the sin, right?
The sin of
and in a certain,
Adam and Chava?
huh?
From
From the sin of Adam and Chava, that's what I'm talking about. The original sin. Okay. Now, in a certain way, the Kohen is kind of, and if you think about it, the Beis Hamikdash itself is, and especially on Yom Kippur, where the Kohen Gadol would go into the Holy of Holies, was kind of a situation where at least we're entering a kind of situation of man before the sin, where we're standing before God like man originally did. And in many ways, the Big Day Kahuna and the Kohen Gadol kind of represents the perfected man. Man striving and being connected with God the way he was, especially on Yom Kippur, the way he was when he stood before Hashem. And I had this idea that, just like Hashem, like in a certain way, like man lost his clothing, because a body is a clothing. This is my own idea, but the body is like the clothing to the soul. It's like we're wearing a garment, our body, and then we take off our garment, and then we die, and then we're going to get a new one, new clothes afterwards. Okay, so the so I think this idea of the big day kahuna, which every part of the big day kahuna represented a different part and came to atone for a different sin that a person does with his body. I think the big day kahuna represents man in his state of perfection, where we're going to get new clothes. It's kind of like that. And this whole service on Yom Kippur, where the Kohen is, where the Kohen Gadol is, wearing clothes, taking off clothes, wearing clothes, taking off clothes. Is this idea of, lovish surah and poshet surah. It's like it's a man growing, like where, like going from one life to another life, and he sheds, his body, did a mission in this world, and then he sheds that, and then he's constantly, you know, uh, 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 working on himself and growing, that he can work, that his body and his soul can work in harmony. That's this idea, right? And beged itself, the word beged comes from the word bigida, to rebel, because you know it was a result of man rebelling against God that he had to wear clothes at all, because um, the in other words, the body can work in harmony with the soul, but it can also rebel against the soul. And when man rebelled against his soul, then then the parts of his body became an embarrassment to him, because he's not using them properly. He has exterior wills, and the body has different wills than the soul, and has different wants than the soul, and he's not using them in harmony. So then he feels the contradiction. That causes the embarrassment. It's when the body, which represents the clothes, is fighting with the neshama. It's like being a rebel. It's doing a bigida. So then the person feels the contradiction, has a need for a beged. When the body, which represents the the clothing, just like the body, just like we clothe our bodies, we clothe our souls. And when the body is not functioning in harmony with the soul, and it's fighting with the soul, and it's a tug of war, and the soul knows he has to do this, and the body wants this, then that's where there's embarrassment, right? It's also a lavush. A clothing is a lobosh. It's no more embarrassment, because you you sort of cover, or put less accent on the body. That's why a clothing is called a lobosh. Because this, right? So what I'm trying to say is that I think the big day, the Kohen Gadol wearing the big day kahuna on Yom Kippur and going into Yom Kippur is kind of the state of man before death, represents the state of man before death in the um, in the Holy of Holies. Now, what this rabbi said was that because of the Kohen's mission, serving Hashem, always standing before Hashem and always being close to Hashem, and then the concept of Hashem uh, um, being the Makor HaChaim, the source of life, death to the Kohen is a tremendous challenge to what he is. And what this rabbi was saying it's a very interesting idea. What he was saying was, sometimes a person, his emunah is challenged because of his high level, because the Kohen is so connected with life. Death is a much bigger question to the Kohen. Being confronted with death can stare his emunah to a Kodesh Baruch, his closeness to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. How can you allow for death, a Kodesh Baruch Hu? You are the Makor HaChaim, and I live with you all the time. And I see because I'm in your vicinity all the time and I'm serving you all the time. You know what? And so I perceive you as a source of life. So how can you allow for death in your world? Like it doesn't stim in his world, death. It's like it's against everything he's exposed to. So it raises a kind of a crisis in his hashkafa, like because of his high level. Like a normal person, okay, so there's death, okay, so
It's not absolute because it says so.
oh, so he brought a very fascinating thing, this rabbi. He said like this: why does the Torah allow him to do for a relative? And this is something I never heard. He said it's a very big tikkun for the nifter when the relative deals it with the burial of the nifter. That's a tikkun for the nifter when the relatives of the nifter take care of him to bury him. Not the Chevra Kadisha. Like, okay, of course the Chevra Kadisha. The Chevra Kadisha is a shliach for are representing the family. But when the family takes care, particularly the family and not someone else, that itself is a tremendous kapara and tikkun for the nifter. And so, in such a case, the Torah felt it's better that he exposes himself so that his family can have this tikkun.
To Aviv, it's not, and that's even the Kohen.
What?
It says only to a daughter that has not been with the man, but not to the father, the mother.
No, fuch. The Kohen can marry can be matama to all 7 relatives, just not his sister who's married another man. But to all but his sister, yes, also sister, brother, son, daughter, father, mother, all the 7 and wife, all the 7 relatives he can be mitasek. Now the Kohen Gadol no, because again the Kohen Gadol is on such a high level, even the aviv and the imo leitama, because to him it's even the bigger crisis. Okay, he was giving examples about people that are like apikorsim. And they said, you know why I don't keep like after like people after the show. I'm not getting into the issue or not, but I'm saying like you can hear people say, you know, I'm so angry at Hashem, I'm not going to keep mitzvahs. Like I'm not going to be from because I'm so angry at Hashem. So that means if you're angry at Hashem, it means you believe in Hashem. Because you believe in Hashem, you're angry at Hashem. If you don't believe in Hashem, how can you be angry at Hashem? Or an apikorsis comes and says, you know. Uh, I'm so angry. You know, after 120, when I go up there, I'm gonna tell Hashem. You know, like so you believe in Hashem. I mean, if you're an atheist, right? Then what are you saying? There is no after 120. There is nothing after 120. It doesn't exist if you're an atheist. So people say they're an atheist, but they're not really atheists. In other words, they have kashas because they actually believe. It's just an example of what we're saying. It's because the Kohen is so close to life, and putting him in front of death is a crisis. It's a stare to his whole existence. His whole existence is to connect the Jewish people to the source of life. And in a certain way, and the Kohen Gadol even more so of bringing with his avodah on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is a day where we kind of exist like man in the garden, like going into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur is where we actually go into the pneumius of our soul and we cleanse ourselves from sin. It's very similar to the state of man before the sin, right? However, there's a kind of danger. The danger was like we find with the sons of Aaron, none of an Avihu.
Yeah.
Right. The point is, we are mankind now exists after the sin. And in the state after the sin, we can't just we're not just holding there. There are levels. You have to be the Kohen Gadol. Al tavo b'kol eid ela kodesh. You can't always go when you want. There's a place. There's a position. There's a time, right? Those are all the dimensions of this world. Time, place, and person. There has to be a special person. It has to be a special time. It has to be in a special place and as commanded, right? And uh and so not of an aviu, they were actually striving to be in a state of this life. They were so connected with this life. They wanted to experience what it was like to be like man in the Garden of Eden, but they didn't go through the steps. They did it in the wrong time. They were not the Kohen Gadol. And because of and we can't do that. We can only grow and we can only be connected being after in a state of after the sin. We have to do it step by step. We can't just go there and be there. Okay? And so there are rules of how and when and where. Okay? And that was the problem with none of an Avihu. And they 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 were not able, in other words, they were nidbak with their neshamas on a very high level, but because they didn't follow the steps, they didn't bring their body with them. So they died. So I wanted to talk a little bit about also why there's this, we find also that Aaron was able to stop death by the story of the Ketores. Okay?
But he didn't.
He did. He stood there and they were dying. Remember when they rebelled against Korach, there was a plague. People started dying. So Aaron ran and got the Ketores because there was a secret that was given to Moshe that the Ketores can stop death. So Aaron ran and got the Ketores and he stood Bein HaChaim v'Hamesing. He stood between the living and the dead. And he did that with the Ketores. So the Ketores is a big part of the Avoda on Yom Kippur. And
I'm listening.
yeah, I know.
Close the eyes.
I understand. I understand.
All the words.
I hear. It is possible to listen with closed eyes. Maybe even better.
It's better.
It's better. Can I talk with closed eyes? Not
I
sure.
don't know.
I don't know. Better not. Better not. I can't read the notes. So, so what is it with the Ketores? I was wondering why does the Ketores? What is it with the Ketores that stops? That like there's a secret in Ketores, the Ketores, and it's Dafka, the avoda of Yom Kippur of the Kohen Gadol with the Ketores in the Holy of Holies. What is it with the Ketores? And we find that over there in that story with Korach, that the Ketores was able to stop the death. What is it with the Ketores? Why the Ketores? So it's brought in the Sfarim that I did find it. There is a Gemara that says that where is it here? There is a Chazal that says yeah. Yeah, so that's on first of all it's Shabbat 89a Aleph, Daf Aleph. It says that the Torah stopped the Megefa. That's what it says. So anyway, the Ketores, there's a Chazal that says that Where is it here? No. Here. That in Adam's sin, the only here, the only here it is. Where is it here? Yeah. You see, it says, V'tira Isha, the woman saw, she tasted the food, she touched the food, she saw the tree, right? She saw, she tasted, she touched, right? She listened to the snake. She used all of her chushim, senses. The only sense that's not mentioned that she used was smell. Smell. So now I was a little bit confused by this because I actually asked AI this question because I was very confused by this because I knew this chazal that the smell was the only sense that was not used in the sin of Adam Arishon. It's the one and only untainted uh, uh, sense. But I had a question because when she ate the food, and to eat, if you don't eat, it doesn't taste.
Of course.
If you can't smell.
Yeah.
So she did use the smell. So yeah, that's true from a sensory point of view, but Lamaisa, the Torah is not looking at it that way. It's the Torah is looking. I like the way he said it here. The Torah is looking misad. First of all, it didn't initiate with that. All the other ones was initiated, and you know, um, you know. So I asked, is not taste connected to smell? So the AI answered me, yes, physically taste and smell are closely linked. True. That's biologically. But it's more about how the senses were used in the sin. Physically, taste and smell are connected. He says, but spiritually, they're very different. Adarabba, it's the only chush that it's not physical, it's totally like spiritual, and it goes deep inside. So therefore, and it's not even mentioned in the pasuk smell. So it was not used as a gateway for the sin, the sense of smell. And it's through the sense of smell that we can find ourselves our tikkun in the future, right? Because that sense was not connected with the fall of man and death. So it's because of that the Ketores, which is the sense of smell, has the ability to counter death. That's why the avoda of the Ketores is the anti-death. And it says that in the future, when the Mashiach comes, he's going to judge the world with the sense of smell. And what that means is that he's not going to perceive people he's going to perceive them through their pneumius of what their essence is, more like through an intuition than rather just judging them through his senses. That's what it means that he's going to judge them by their smell, means he's going to know who they are from the inside out and not from the outside in, so to speak. And that seems to be the connection between the Ketores that and that's why that's such an important function on Yom Kippur, where we're attempting to reach, and that's also when Mashiach, who's going to bring mankind back to the state of man before the sin, he's going to judge people to know if they're righteous or not through the sense of smell. That's what it means. He'll be able, but it doesn't mean necessarily smelling physically. It means he'll have an intuition if this is a good person or a bad person. He'll know. He'll know. Not from the outside, not from the outside appearances.
It's difficult to understand.
Huh?
It's difficult.
Yeah, because everything we do is sensory.
Yeah.
Everything we do is sensory. But we have to know that yeah, like this is a little bit of a window in understanding that 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 when we connect to life. Now, what I did was I discussed some of these. I wanted to connect all these ideas together. The sin of Adam Rishon, the prohibition of the Kohanim, Tuma, and what I did was I after I discussed and I saw there were a lot of sources about this, and my intuition was right, like about connecting all these things. The sin of Nadav and Avihu was connected, and and the vote of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, all connected with the fall of man, and the Kohen's role of, so to speak, living like, or at least striving to bring us back to the connection with Hashem before the sin. So I asked AI, because the idea came to me. The idea came to me that, Rav Nachman Breslov, he always used to say that when you give a shir Torah, you should be able to afterwards put it into a prayer. So I asked it, can you make a song for me? Can you take all these ideas that we discussed and make a song? And I made it a very complex song that I didn't understand at all. So I said, can you make it a simple song? Simple, that everybody can understand it, not only people that have been in our discussion. So I have it, and I put it to music, and I'd like to play it. Would you? And it will make a lot of more sense after the shir that did. Okay, so I'm gonna play it now. You can. There are different tunes you can put it to, but I put it. Hold on. Between the living and the dead. You see the words. The Torah says the Kohen stays far away from death. The Kohen has to stay away from death. Yes. With every word and breath. Is gone, where bodies turn to dust, because his role is to bring life, to serve, to heal, to trust. Between the living and the dead, he stands, not with his own fire, but with Hashem's commands, to bring back life, to push death away, but only in the proper way. We reach for God that must be led. That's the line between life and death. It's nice, no?
Yes. Nice.
He goes through it. The time when man first lived. The first man.
Yeah.
Before the sin, before the fall, before there was death or night. But Adam reached beyond the word, he took what wasn't his. And death came into all the world. That's how it still is. Between the dead.
Is it religion or is it divertimento?
Huh?
Is it religion or is it divertimento?
What do you mean?
Is it pleasure or a religion?
What do you mean by that?
No, that's my question.
Well, I don't understand what you mean by
No,
that.
that is
Whether it's
so.
or whether it's religion. Bedoel je amusement?
De tekst, ja, het is
It's poetry. It's poetry of the ideas,
yes,
but it's all the ideas we mentioned in the shir,
yes,
just put in poetry
yeah,
and then put to a song. So I mean, I like that
Yes.
because it's a way to remember everything.
yes.
So basically, I then asked it to make a poster. So I kind of made a poster of it with all the stanzas in the song. So this is what it looks like, the poster. Here. See, like I made like a poster here. I don't know if you can see it.
Ah, yes.
So it has like all the ideas, you know,
Yeah.
Anna Marishon before the sin, the you know, it's got all the verses, the nut of an aviu, you know, the Kohen Gadol's prohibition with the Tumantara, the Ketores. It got a stanza for every single one. So that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have to get my
I like this idea of
phone.
taking
Yes.
you know, you're allowed to enjoy your learning.
Yeah.
You can take it to another level.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Now, sometimes with these AI things, it doesn't like I've made other songs with them before, but like it sometimes misses the point.
Yeah.
And then you have to, first of all, some I just do my own words completely. Some I do my own words completely.
Yes.
And some if I use AI, it's going to use some of my words, it's going to add some of its own. Then you have to go over it again. See, first of all, if the ideas are correct that it's saying. You have to check it. You have to check everything. And then you can also you can also tweak it to make it exactly the way you want it, you know,
Yes.
because it can actually like take a part of what you said and make that the main point. And the main point that you wanted to do, it will make it like a sub point.
Yeah.
And you have to change it around. You know, you can't rely on a machine. You can't rely on a machine. So you know,
Can I take
it's a tool. AI is a tool. I think in Torah, I think it's better for people that have knowledge in Torah to use the tool than people that don't have knowledge in Torah to use the tool, because the people that don't have knowledge in Torah and tool, they don't know when the machine is making a mistake. They have no way of checking it. You know what I'm saying? I can sense right away when it's telling me something wrong, and then you can also look up the sources because you can read the sources and understand the sources. So it's a tool. So any kind of tool, you have to, you know, ride the tool and not be a victim of the tool. You know, not let the tool use you. I was saying to someone, I didn't use AI. AI used me.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
Yes, thank you very much. Look.
you like the poster?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is het okay for you 27 of what is dat? Is dat June? Is dat May? I don't know. Nee, dit is
Nou, het
de.
probleem, hoe onthoud ik het?
Wat?
Ik heb een vraag of je.
Ja. 27.
Je kunt ook naar één gaan.
11 Sivan. Ja?
When?
27
Of May?
of May. 11 Sivan. Yes.
If I'm in the country, yes.
Okay, okay, good. If you're not, let me know.
Je zal niet afvaaien.
Nee, en het is ook een perfecte zonbescherming.
Heb je dat nodig?
Je vrienden? Jij niet?
Nee, ja, ik heb een pet op. Ook een pet.
Ik heb vaak een pet op, maar ik moet als de zon schijnt een hoed en een zonnebril.
Ja, ja.